I'm Josie Jaffrey, and today I would like to do a reading for you from my latest book, The Wolf and the Water, which came out last week on Thursday. The Wolf and the Water is the first in a new series exploring lost worlds and lost civilizations, sort of mythical, fabulistic societies. And this one is about Atlantis. It follows a 16-year-old girl called Calla as she tries to solve her father's murder and escape the valley in which she lives before it's flooded entirely. And today, the little bit I would like to read for you is right from the beginning of the book. It introduces us to Calla and it ends just as she discovers her father's murder. So I'm going to dive straight in. The wall was even older than the city itself. It straddled the narrow gap between the peaks at the end of the valley, marble blocks climbing halfway to the cliff tops. Both heights were sacred, cliffs and wall. Both were warded by the acolytes. Both were forbidden to the citizens of Kepos. While the wall bounded the valley to the west, and the cliffs bounded it to north and south, the sea marked its eastern edge. But there was a second sea, a secret sea, a rising sea, that crashed against the outside of the wall. This was not common knowledge, and it was certainly not known to the common people. It was not even known to Calla, heir to the tribe of Glaucs, as she approached her majority. The wall was forbidden to her. Also forbidden was the pool in which she had chosen to swim. Her toes clenched in the water, forcing the tickles of bubbles from between them. The cold ached in her ankles as she dropped them into the pool, but she ignored it and let her legs follow, dangling them over the rock until the water reached her knees. She shouldn't be here. That might have explained the place's attraction, but it had much to recommend it besides the thrill of transgression. The pool caught the waterfall from the cliffs above, the drop immense. By the time it reached her, the cascade was wreathed in mist and spray. On its way down, it passed the temple, perched precariously on an outcrop of the cliff, picked out in gold by the sun. She squinted up at it and noted with satisfaction that there was not a soul in sight. This pool was sacred, and she was sullying it with her toes. She wriggled them with abandon. The water was so deep that all she could see through the turbulence of the current was blue and black. She imagined that some creature might break through the darkness in a burst of glorious colour, snatching her heels to drag her down to a hidden world in the freezing depths. The thought held no fear, but shivered lightly through her chest, almost as though she wished for it. She breathed. She watched the fine hairs rise in goose pimples over the skin of her stomach. She felt the pressure of her racing heartbeat in the back of her throat. The moment stretched. In a single move, she lifted her body from the ledge and knifed feet first into the water, toes pointed down, fingers stretched above her head. The cold settled on her skin and sank into her thin fat. She spread her limbs, her eyes opened wide into the grey blue, and held herself in place under the surface. But for the distant thud of the waterfall, it was utterly silent. With a kick of her legs, she flew weightlessly through the water. She danced, graceful as a sycamore seed, whirling around and up until her head reached the air. One gasp, then down again. She forced herself deeper still, until finally her feet hit the bottom of the pool. It was rocky, strewn with stones that slid as her toes touched them. Arms pushing the water upwards, pushing her feet into the ground, she walked. A perfect line, one foot in front of the other. Toes, arch, heel, step. Repeat, repeat. Her lungs flattened, forcing air between her lips in frantic bubbles. Reluctantly, she pushed off hard with her good leg and kicked, long hair trailing heavily behind her, until she broke the surface. It was late. The sun was painting a rainbow up the sky, red to indigo from horizon to stars. The air smelled warm and rich, the high heat of the day sliding away to let the land exhale its scents. She shouldn't be here. Her parents would start to worry soon. It was 10 times harder to haul herself out of the water than it had been to drop into it. She struggled, rolling up and over the stone ledge like an inept seal. The shale scraped against her bare thighs as she dragged herself to her feet, supporting herself against the tree where she had stashed her dress and cane. The air was heavy. She was heavy. How she wished she could live underwater. It took Calla almost an hour to walk home. Night was falling when she finally passed from dirt tracks to the cobbled streets of Kepos. Her home was in the centre of the city, amongst the affluent clutch of decocrat houses at the very peak of the citadel. The streets were wider here, the roads paved, the wooden houses giving way to stone. It was quieter too. While the lower reaches of the city bustled with people even at night, the heights were so peaceful you could hear the breeze. Calla could almost imagine she heard the souls of the dead singing from behind the distant wall. Dust coated her sandaled feet, stuck to the moisture she'd brought with her from the pool. With her mucky shoes, dirty dress, and dripping braid, she might have been mistaken for a slave if it hadn't been for the cane. There was no disguising herself when the rap of wood on stone attracted attention to her every wobbling step, so she disguised the mess instead, pulling her cloak over her head and close around her waist. However defective she might be considered by her father's peers, it wasn't proper for the daughter of a decocrat to be grubby in public. She could have stopped at the baths, but tonight she wanted to get home. It wasn't that she would be in trouble for her lateness or that she had any premonition of tragedy. It was simply that her muscles ached from the swim and from the walk. She had pushed it too far, and now her left leg was so heavy that she stumbled over her steps. She tried to control it, to harness the grace of walking underwater, but she was too weak. Even if she had been paying attention to her surroundings, she would have seen nothing out of the ordinary when she reached the house of Glauc's. There was no sound from within, and the door slave answered her knock with his customary leisure. The pale-haired boy wouldn't meet her eye, but that wasn't unusual either. He owed her deference because of her status, but she knew there were those who thought her deformity was infectious, that they might catch the curse the gods had visited upon her. Nevertheless, she chose to believe the boy's behaviour was a mark of respect rather than revulsion. So, with the house apparently functioning as normal, it was not until she found her mother washing a bloody rag in the courtyard that she realised something was wrong. And that's the end of the extract I wanted to read for you today. If you'd like to get your hands on a copy of the book, then it's available in ebook from all good retailers. It's on Amazon and Kobo, Apple, Barnes & Noble, basically everywhere. If you'd like a paperback copy, you can get them from Amazon, and I'm hoping that by the end of next week I will also have signed copies for sale on my website. And that's it. If you've got any questions at all, please do feel free to tweet me and ask me whatever you like about the book. Thank you very much for watching.